Martin Luther King Jr. Once upon a time in segregated America, there lived a remarkable young boy named Martin Luther King Jr. He was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. From a very young age, Martin was filled with curiosity and a deep sense of justice. As a child, he often wondered why some people were treated unfairly just because of the color of their skin. He saw that many of his African American friends and family members faced discrimination, racism, and inequality. Little did he know that he would grow up to be a fearless leader who would dedicate his life to make the world a better place. Martin's parents, Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King, instilled in him the values of love, compassion, and equality. They taught him to stand up for what he believed in and to never be silent in the face of injustice. Martin was an excellent student and he worked hard in school. He wanted to use his education to help his community and bring about change. He went on to study theology and became a minister, just like his father. Martin believed in the power of peaceful protest and the strength of unity. He was inspired by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, who had used non-violent resistance to bring about change in India. In the 1950s, the United States was deeply divided by segregation and racial discrimination. African Americans were treated as second-class citizens and were denied basic rights, such as the right to vote, go to the same schools as white children, or even sit in the same restaurants or use the same water fountains. Martin knew he had to do something about it. He became a leader in the civil rights movement, a peaceful movement that aimed to end racial segregation and discrimination. He organized protests, marches, and boycotts to demand equal rights for all. One of the most famous moments in Martin's life was the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. A brave African American woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white person, which was a law at the time. Her act of courage sparked a year-long boycott of the bus system, led by Martin Luther King Jr. People walked miles to work, shared rides, and carpooled to support the cause. Eventually, the courts ruled that segregation on buses was unconstitutional and the boycott was a victory for civil rights. Martin's dream was to create a world where people were judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. He believed in the power of love, forgiveness, and non-violence. He gave a famous speech in 1963 during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where he shared his dream with the world. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident and that all men are treated equal. Martin Luther King Jr. continued to fight for civil rights even in the face of violence and hatred. He believed that change would come through peaceful means and that justice would prevail. Tragically, on April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. His death was a devastating loss, but his legacy lived on. His dream of equality and justice inspired countless people to continue the fight for civil rights. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered as a hero, a rebel for equality, and a symbol of hope. His life and his dream continue to inspire people around the world to stand up for what is right and work towards a future where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. And so, as we close our eyes and drift off to sleep, let us remember the incredible story of Martin Luther King Jr., a courageous rebel who dreamed of a world where love and equality would one day reign supreme. Good night, little rebels. Dream big and always stand up for what you believe in.